for learning.
Same.
I've learned that. I knew that, but I'm going to use that as one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what something in the environment, right? Okay, something in the environment or something like that.
Oh, I did memo and journaling. Like my writing examples, I say, here's an example of me memoing. Here's an example of what I do when I journal. I'm a early riser too. I'm up at 4:30 and I'm functioning highly.
Right.
And so I talked about all that stuff.
Because by 7 o'clock at night, I'm too old, man.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm no good after 3:30. I'm starting to wither. Okay.
Oh my God. Well, I better get you out of here before 3:30. So
okay, let's do this thing.
So let's go. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Truth on Tilt. My name is Gershon. I am with a very special guest today. On this show, we like to talk about things that most people would consider controversial or cause a lot of commotion. But, today I want to talk about something, and I want to talk to business leaders and leaders in general. If I said, hey, I got something that will give, when you run your business, you're trying to hit an inclusive environment. You're trying to get a lot of diverse ideas, get rid of biasness, and, create fair opportunities for all your employees. I think most leaders would jump on top of that. But if you say, hey, I just explained DEI very simply to you, mm-hmm. then all of a sudden it becomes this like it is like hot coals, going down their throat.
Yeah.
My guest today, I've been very blessed to meet Dr. Cheryl Ingram. She is in my doctorate program.
Word. Dr.
Cheryl Ingram's getting her second doctorate. Mm-hmm. She's at Pepperdine University with me. She has had multiple businesses, including Inclusology and Diversity.
Yeah.
She's written 2 books, mm-hmm. and right next to us is her latest. You could either call it DEI'ing or dying. So you take your pick. It depends, I guess, what side of the coin you would be on.
Yeah,
exactly.
For sure.
So welcome, Cheryl. So you're from Nebraska?
That's right, Omaha, baby.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
My mother has 4 children. I'm the youngest, 2 sisters and 1 brother. My dad has 9 children, and I'm in the middle, I believe.
So you totally have middle child syndrome. No wonder why you're out there just doing all the things you do.
Yeah, I'm the baby on one side, middle child on the other.
That is crazy. So Omaha, so you left Nebraska, or did you stay in Nebraska for undergrad?
No, I left and went to New Mexico. First one to leave home, Las Cruces, New Mexico State University. I'm an Aggie.
And then you also got your doctorate there.
That's correct.
So what made you stay at New Mexico?
Oh, there's so many things. To be completely honest, I was really comfortable at New Mexico. I was really safe at New Mexico. And New Mexico needed a lot of work. And I have like this warrior archetype in me, a little bit of masochism, where I go into the spaces that I see needing help. And if I feel like I'm safe enough to really do the work, I will stay in New Mexico, in fairness. And I say this honestly, I loved Las Cruces. It also kept me out of trouble because in high school I was a bit of a intelligent knucklehead. So like gifted programs, great at science and math even, but, grew up in the hood, in a poor neighborhood. But had a really good family that treated me really well, kept me out of trouble. School always kept me out of trouble. So when I moved to Las Cruces, it was quiet. And I had been going there to visit friends because my best friend was a year older than me at the time. And so she went down there first, and her father used to take a caravan of us to Las Cruces just to get us out the hood so we could see something different. And New Mexico was like, I got there, and it was the first time ever I had truly left home to go see something else. Because I traveled a little bit as a kid, but mostly like to go see family and stuff, never just for pleasure, or should I say business or whatever. And so when I got to Las Cruces, I was like, oh, this is different. It's quiet. I applied to 4 different schools, Florida A&M, Hampton University, New Mexico, got accepted into all of them. HBCUs wasn't really giving me no money or no financial aid. Mexico gave me a full ride, straight to Las Cruces.
Gone. So, I got to congratulate you because I know we've talked about this. My whole mom's side is from Nebraska.
Yeah.
And it's like shunned upon to leave Nebraska.
Yeah.
You can leave for school if you really, really twist your parents' arm.
Mm-hmm.
but the family expects you back, not living with them, but at least living close in Nebraska.
Yeah.
I mean, when my mom left Nebraska to go to Chicago, I mean, it was like an uproar.
Mm-hmm.
So congrats on that. I mean, that's very impressive.
Thanks, because Mom's was pissed when I left, Gershon.
Exactly. I told you.
I didn't tell her I was going to New Mexico State till 2 weeks before I got my scholarship letter. I was like, school's paid for, I'm out. And she was upset with me. But she, eventually came around. I was like, what do you need? And she always had that, you can always come home. And she was real intentional about instilling in me, don't you ever forget where you come from. When you go do whatever you're going to do in the world, don't you forget about Nebraska. So correct that, never leave Nebraska. Don't forget about it. It helped make you who you are, kind of thing.
So along your journey, where did you decide to dedicate so much of your life, your heart, your mind power, your time to diversity, basically DEI?
Yeah, so, it's interesting. When I went to college, Gershon, remember I told you my friend Dad used to take a caravan of us? So 13 of us went to New Mexico from Omaha at one time. We all went together. 2 of us ended up staying. And it was my freshman year. I was going through multicultural programs because they gave me most of the money to come to school. They was paying for, my books and just helping me out. So I was working as a work study in there. And all my friends left. And most of them left because of stuff going on back home. Or they just didn't have the resources to feel like they really succeeded and were tired of struggling, so they're going to go back to where it was comfortable. So I started seeing my friends and people I really loved and care about struggling with the financial aid office, the registrar's office, with professors, with the curriculum. And I was like, I got to do something about this because I'm a fixer by nature. If you put a problem in front of me and I believe I can solve it, I will try my best to fix it and bring with me whoever I can to help me fix it. And when I was working in Black programs, we was in what we call Garcia Annex. So it was Black programs, American Indian programs, Chicano programs, veteran programs, all LGBTQ programs, all in the same building with the counseling center, coincidental enough. And we was always struggling to get funding or seeing our students leave. And I noticed that freshman year as an 18-year-old, and I was like, how am I going to fix this? And it was, at the time, we called it multiculturalism. That was in 1999, 2000. And I was like, I'm going to do this right now. And then I just kept doing it and getting really good at it. And I was like, this is it. This is what I want to do. I'm feeling fulfilled doing this kind of work, even though it's kicking my ass a little bit. Because as a 19-year-old, I was getting my ass kicked in DEI. But I was like, the warrior mentality kicked in. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to be good at it. I'm going to find a way to change the world the way I can doing this.
So I'm just curious because obviously New Mexico is not a very popular university, right?
Yep.
But I mean, well, unless you watch that Disney movie I used to watch, High School Musical, right?
Gosh.
Yeah, right. But the thing is, what do you know the breakdown of student pop?
I did when I was there. It may have changed a little bit, but I don't think that significantly. So it's considered a Hispanic serving institution. It's 51% Hispanic, 49% white, 2% Black. No, my numbers are off. It was 49% Hispanic. It was about 45% Black. That's 93. 3% African American, and then other. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, other. Wow. So, and out of those students, that student population,
Mm-hmm.
how many of them were the first in the family to go to university?
First generation college students, I think it was 31%.
Big number.
Big number, yeah.
Big number.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
That is a big number. And do you know, last question, just because I'm curious, I just want the audience to know what you're up against. How many of them actually finished 4 years?
At the time, I think the completion rate was pretty low. Because I remember, so I was running numbers, working with the IRB, et cetera. I think it was about 60%. It was pretty low.
Wow, 60%.
61%, I think, at the time. It may have been in the 70s, but I distinctly remember graduation rate 60-some%.
Wow.
Who started from freshman year to bachelor's.
Eventually, yeah. Even if it took 7, 8, 9 years.
Yeah.
Because I would think, I would think with that diverse population that you mentioned, a lot of them probably weren't even full time. They probably had to work.
Yeah. Yep. And some of us was full time and working still. That was me.
That was you. Well, yeah. Well, that's great. So what personal experiences have led you to DEI outside of school?
Sheesh. Nobody's ever asked me that question. That's a great fucking question too, Gershon. What has led me to DEI out of school? So I grew up poor, but my mom was real good about, when I was 9 years old, she was taking me to the Afro-American bookstore in Omaha, Nebraska. No lie, which is right across the street from the projects off of 33rd and Lake. And I used to go in there, and there was a man that owned the bookstore. His name slips my mind at the time. He would give me books to read. And so it was at 9 years old, I was reading about the Black Cinderella. I was reading about the autobiography of Malcolm X. Like, I was intrigued. I was reading about, I remember this book called Monsters that this man wrote. And from LA, he was in prison, and my father was in prison at the time. And so I was reading a book to try to understand what prison life was like, even for him. So I've always been super inquisitive, and my mom nurtured that by taking me to multicultural stores and making me read those things. And my grandmother was a community advocate. She used to host the block parties. You know, she was a grandma, sit on the porch, cuss you out, get you together, call your grandma. Like, our whole family lived on like one block, most of our family. And so, like, I've always been raised in the community. I've always been raised in understanding what the health of your community meant, how knowledge was power, even as a poor kid, a kid in poverty. But my mom used to say, you in poverty, but you're not poor. Like, we economically, we don't have it, but mentally, you got it. Don't you let nobody take that away from you. And I was just raised that way. And my brain processes information fairly quickly, which is why I'm going for a second PhD. And I would just read things and gather them. And I was kind of like the nerd in the hood. Like, people would joke about the way I talked or the things I talked about, but if it came down to it, we was gonna get down to it, you know. So that was me. And like, personal experiences. Gosh, my mother also had a daycare, and I think this is what truly drove me into DEI. We at any time would have 13 children in our daycare center. We had children with disabilities. At the time, we didn't have the language for it, but children with different sexual orientations, children whose parents were addicted to drugs. Like, I think I grew up, immigrant children even. I grew up in a house where there was always a different, diverse identity, and I always saw the struggles, but also saw the humanity in them because my mom was real intentional about teaching us that. So it was like, I remember my mom, when they couldn't get a hold of the parents, we would go to schools, and I'd see her at school up there advocating for kids because she was on the emergency contact list, you know? So it was like, it's stuff like that always kept me rooted in DEI, even though I didn't have the language for it back then.
So basically, you learned from your mom.
Yeah, I learned a lot of DEI stuff from my mom and really good educators.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing. The thing is with Cheryl, as long as she doesn't argue with the educators, she will learn a lesson or two. But
I was arguing in kindergarten.
You know, you're having crucial conversations, I'm sure. You weren't arguing. You're just having deep conversations.
Yeah, both.
So, man, there's so many things. I mean, so basically, breaking down, I might sound to you, I might sound like a total jackass for saying this, but
right.
I look at DEI as the golden rule, right? You treat others as you would want to be treated.
Yeah.
Correct?
Sort of.
But if you do that, you will treat everyone
the same.
Correct. You'll give everyone the same opportunities.
Yeah.
So that being said, when you get hired to consult with an organization to do DEI, there's got to be some fucking horror stories.
Oh man, I'm an executive coach, Gershon, and I say this because some of my coaches might see this, but y'all know this. I coach some real fucking assholes, and I coach some really great people. And it seems like the bigger the company, the higher the budget, the wider the executive team, or the more male the executive team, the bigger the asshole. And I'm pretty intentional with my clients about that too, because I'm a fan of an asshole can also do really great things. if they have the right tools to do them and the willingness to want to change. So I see, like you call DEI the golden rule. I call the platinum rule in DEIs for me is treat people the way they want to and need to be treated in order to get everybody to the same playing field, the same level. And so that's like the rule I go into DEI with. But I've seen some horror stories, Gershon. I've coached executives at large entertainment companies, and still do, who shall remain nameless. And then there's some people who I'm like, no, you need to find somebody else to coach you. I cannot help you and will not. Also, know when to walk away. Meet people where they are. Know when to leave them there. Has been a big thing of mine because of a lot of the horror stories.
So what's the biggest red flag you're looking at when you walk in and say, I got to go?
If someone says, I know I don't need, like, I once went into a company. This man called me. He was like, I only do 15-minute meetings. Okay, whatever. I don't give a shit. What do you need 15 minutes of my time for? Because you called me. Because immediately out the door, I was like, dude. And he's like, can you, I would like to talk to you. People are saying I need DEI coaching, whatever. So I go to the company. I meet with him. And the first thing he says out of his mouth, I walk in the door, I haven't even sat down, is, I know I don't need to change, but how do I change everything else around me to make it work for me, but also not have people bitch and complain at me all the time? And I was like, And then he says, I don't give a shit about gay people. I don't give a shit about black people. I don't give a shit about women. But I know in order for my company to be successful, they need to work here. I said, stop talking. I'm out. I'm going to recommend you somebody who might want to help you. It's clearly not me.
Yeah, I mean, but that just shows his ignorance from a business standpoint.
Right.
From a business standpoint. Because the thing is that when you bring a diverse group of people together and they're all comfortable,
yeah,
amazing fucking things happen.
That's right.
Amazing
That's
things.
right.
The creativity, the strategy, the just the way employees will go home and talk about your company.
Yeah.
Right? It won't be a job to them.
Yeah.
Right? It'll be a career. It would be a passion. But, the problem is, and I think I'm going to go here right now because I got to get this fucking shit off my chest.
Get it off.
Anything that is important, somehow or another, the fucking government seems to fuck it up.
Agreed. Completely agree. I got a documentary called DEI'ing about some of that. Say more, Gershon, please.
Because, it's crazy. Because they find something that tends to push buttons in people, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden they use it to divide people.
Yeah.
I totally think we're fucking, I'm a scientist raised, right? By education. We're fucking up the planet.
Yes, we are. Absolutely.
But you have one side that's going to the extreme of saying, oh, we can't even have gas stoves in our house.
Yeah.
To the other side saying this is all fucking bullshit because it's going to happen anyways.
Yeah. And the extremists are always the loudest.
Because they get the most media attention.
Right. And that's what the media gravitates towards, is the messiness, the loud people, the controversy. And they give them more airtime. So that's what we see. We get fed it every day, but...
So in the last 4 years, in your opinion, how has this administration fucked up?
I think this administration has been trying to clean up, fuck up. I think every administration that I've seen come since I've been paying attention to politics, which is since I was in high school, has come in to try to clean up while they also fuck up, right? And so when I think about this administration, I think when I look at the initiatives, for example, for global warming, we also have a red Senate that even when they push forth orders to try to get passed, they shut them down. And so and let me be clear, y'all, I'm a centralist. I'm not a Democrat or a liberal. I'm not a Democrat or a conservative or a Republican, but I am more liberal than anything. Just not, this two-party system.
Yeah.
But,
Libertarian, card-carrying member, absolutely love that system.
Yeah.
But we never have anybody that truly has a chance because we don't have rock stars on either side.
That's right. And it's ingrained in us to the two-party system, to vote for one or the other and not other parties that are in between. And to be fair, look, if what you're doing is rooted in DEI, you care about people, you're not trying to kill, harm, or do things to hurt others, then I'm I'm paying attention. I'm always paying attention, but you may have more of my attention if your strategy is rooted in that and not division, like what we've recently seen. But even with this current uh, administration, in fairness, my thing and my question to them is actually, what are you doing? Like, just show me something that actually has created significant progress for where we need to be headed. And it feels like a lot of this, what you call, has been trying to undo the damage that has been done. I think that, for example, the pandemic really changed, evolved DEI. But also, let me not overshadow the other areas of DEI that have always remained kind of like the secondary, like disability, for example. It's like we haven't seen enough legislation working on disability justice. We haven't seen enough legislation working on really eradicating poverty and dismantling systems that just don't fucking work for people.
You want to know why?
Tell me your opinion.
Well, let's just talk about homelessness, right?
Yeah, the unhoused.
Okay, yeah, the unhoused. Sorry.
Well, I'm learning.
Sorry.
I'm still learning too. Houselessness, unhoused. I'm like,
Okay.
let me process.
The poor people that live on the street, right?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Do you know how many billions of dollars are made helping the homeless?
Look, when I was in Seattle, I lived in Seattle for 5 years. When I first got to Seattle, I think the homelessness was costing the state or the city like $44 million. When I left Seattle in 2018, I was there from 2013 to 2018, it was up to $144 million, I think they said. That has tripled in 5 years.
So are you going to look at these companies that are helping the homeless and bringing in a fat paycheck? Are you going to say, oh, don't worry, the government's going to take care of the homeless? No, they're lobbying, saying, oh, yeah, you should do something about homelessness, but push comes to shove, they don't want anything done because they're making too much money helping the homeless. You can say the same thing on the war on drugs. You could say the same thing about global warming. You could say the same thing about, you name it. I mean, that's why I hate the fact that I got my MBA, because it taught me to follow the dollar.
The dollars, yeah. Yep. Follow the money. You want to know where corruption is? Follow the money.
Oh.
Like,
Both sides are so freaking corrupt. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, big pharma. It's so many systems that benefit off of oppression, and because there's such a benefit off of oppression, people don't want to see it stop, and some will ignore that it exists. And you know, I really look at it. Angry people are really easy to deceive, and I think we saw a lot of that this election too. Like when people are angry or have hatred in them for whatever fucking reason. I do give a shit. I just don't want to have to try to figure it out for everybody. But you see the trends of the irrationality that happens when people are angry and uninformed or misinformed.
Or, no, I would say uninformed.
Yeah.
Because all the crying I'm hearing now is because how could, like for me, I love drama. Like I watch those smutty reality shows.
I hate them.
Because I love drama. So what did I do? As soon as I saw that Trump was doing well, I went over and clicked on MSNBC to watch the election results because I wanted to watch all of them melt down. And know what else I did? I watched The View the next morning. Mm-hmm. And the thing was, they're like, I don't understand what's going on. How did this happen? Well, the first thing is, even if it was a 50-50 vote, the current administration did call the people that supported the Republican Party garbage.
Yeah, I mean, Hillary Clinton made the same mistake when she talked about Trump supporters. And he ate off of that shit.
Oh.
I mean, he turned that around to like very decent people and that's the problem. Like, and don't get me wrong, I think there are extremists on that side. And I also think that they're very racist, sexist, homophobic people that follow his campaign and were inspired by his campaign. But also...
Well, hold on. We could say there were ignorant people on both sides.
Right.
Both sides.
Right. But, and in fairness, I pay attention to every campaign. But I do think there were a lot of my friends who I had no idea would be voting for Trump or had ever been conservative, had went that way because they were, and I won't say a lot of my friends, a handful of people, and especially people that I was like, oh my God, but disheartened by previous administrations, leaving them out to dry. right? Feeling like they didn't have any support in their businesses, and were willing to overlook some of the hateful rhetoric that was being spewed, or even the misinformation. Because let's not get on what Elon Musk did for Trump's campaign. But I've worked in DEI for 24 years now. And I also think there's a misconception of people believing who they think exists in our country. You know, because there's this big thing that we were in a post-racial society after Obama got elected. There's this thing that sexism doesn't exist in the way that it does. Women are complaining in the workplace. A lot of that shit is very prevalent and very true and has always been there, but now it's more bold.
Well, I mean, when you talk about, I mean, sexism is very prevalent as far as when you look at a woman leader versus a man leader.
Correct.
Right?
Especially in this country.
If a woman leader comes off and she's hard, she's tough, she calls people out on their bullshit, she gets labeled a bitch.
That's right.
But if a man does it, he's a strong leader.
He's honest.
Right.
He's going to tell it like it is.
But I don't think Vice President Harris wasn't elected because we're afraid of a woman leader. I think she wasn't elected because, number one, she didn't separate herself from the current president. And secondly, she did not make clear any of her stances.
I think there's some truth to that. And then I think there is some more. I think that is an incomplete story that is partially true. And let me explain. There's a number of reasons why she didn't get elected. When we looked at the post-election data results, a lot of men of other races did not vote for her. White men in particular, Latino men in particular, for example, did not vote for her.
Women didn't vote for her.
Yeah, those women didn't vote for her.
Young kids didn't. I don't want to say the young kids. The 18,
age group to 24.
24 didn't vote
Correct.
for her.
And
she underperformed.
She did. She underperformed. There's a number of reasons for that. I do think that her being a woman was one of them, because I do think there are some cultural norms that don't highlight women leaders, right? Or if they do, it's exactly what you said. The woman's a bitch. She's going to demasculate us. We don't want her in this position because we don't want to have to answer to a woman. I don't think that's the only reason, and I don't know if that is the main reason, but it is a big reason. She also only had 100 days to campaign. And I'm not the biggest Kamala fan. Let's be clear. I am not. I mean, I sound like I'm advocating for her, but I do speak facts. That's my thing, is facts. And I also think that when I watched her interview, there were pieces of me that was like, baby, answer the question, right? But she did put forth a blueprint of an economic plan. And that versus Project 2025, very different night and day. And so, but I do think there was some incompleteness because she just didn't answer some questions, but she did answer others. So I was just like, there's a piece of me that was like, if you answer this question, what is your campaign team doing to prepare you to answer these questions, right? Because I think there is this notion that women have to work twice as hard, and I think if to be president of the United States, 10 times as hard. You should have been overly prepared to go into those rooms.
And let's be honest, you and I looking at each other, who the fuck wants to run for president?
Right.
You know, exactly.
Yeah,
no way.
No fucking way. I don't even want to be president of a university. No.
I don't want to be president of my homeowners association.
Right. No.
But I think, you know, the thing is, I believe we will have a woman as president sooner than later. I think there are so many women out there that are absolutely incredible, powerful, intelligent, rock stars. One of these parties has to bring them up.
Yeah. And I wasn't surprised she didn't get elected because I work in DEI. And so I know I've seen the best and I've seen the worst of people, very high-powered people and people who are in administrative positions. And the realities are very different for us, rooted in fact, right? When we run assessments, when we look at numbers, when we look at data, when we talk to people, because qualitative and quantitative data both matter. That's why I'm doing mixed methods. But I've seen the behind the scenes that most people don't. I'm engulfed in it daily. And so even when Trump was running in 2016, I knew he was going to get elected because I knew what was happening behind the scenes. And my hope is never for that kind of rhetoric to run this country, but I'm also realistic about what people will believe based on who's saying it.
Right. And I'm scared to death because I think he's going to
Yes,
have
sir.
way too much power. I mean, I don't care who gets elected president as long as Senate and Congress are split.
And they are not.
Yeah.
What happened with the House? Do we know yet?
No, not yet.
Okay, because it was 204 to
Yeah,
212 last time I looked.
Right. It's 2024. We still can't count ballots fast enough.
Right. But then ballots for the presidential election came in fast.
Yeah. I was expecting this to be like a 2-week thing, just like it has in the past.
Yeah.
But I think they changed it. I think, I don't know. I mean, the whole election thing is a whole different conversation, and which, man, I'll have you back on. We can have a fun politics.
Because
So, I mean, the thing is, like, so a lot of people are saying now DEI is going to die.
yeah, DEI always dies and evolves and comes back to life. That's the thing. So
what did it? Okay, so when was it in your history? When was the first time you think it died?
the first time I think we truly had a name for DEI when it came to life, we called it affirmative action. So you've had legislation like women's suffrage, the right to vote. We've had those things. That's DEI, right? But I think the first time DEI died is when affirmative action died, politically speaking. Because the concepts of diversity, equity, and inclusion will always be around. We just tend to find different names for them and shitty strategies to try to make them come to life. Like my book, when I talk about the goddamn mess we've made of diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's a mess. I'm blaming some of that on qualitative research. And I did my first dissertation on qual. We love to talk about DEI. There's even numbers. Even the way that we run numbers, I blame quant too. Does not favor DEI arguments a lot of the times. One, because people ask the wrong questions or they looking at the wrong kind of data. My career has been rooted in specificities of data. So, for example, to answer your question, first time I think it died was when affirmative action died, when they got rid of that legislation the first time. I think that's when we saw it die. And during that time, I remember, even as a child, a lot of people was talking about DEI. A lot of people were screaming about DEI. A lot of people wasn't building DEI solutions that were sustainable. And part of the reason that they're not sustainable is because politically, bureaucracies and hegemony make it really hard to build sustainable DEI systems, no matter where you are. But yeah, that's my idea of the first time it died.
And then what did it come back as?
Diversity and inclusion. So DEI,
what is that about?
So I would say early 2000s.
Okay.
D&I is what we called it. Is what it was called, and it's still called by some places.
Okay.
And then DEI came in I would say around 2010, we started using DEI. Maybe later even as a broad industry. And then, because like in the 1970s and 80s, Hewlett-Packard, or 1960s, Hewlett-Packard was one of the first companies to have like a black employee resource group. We had ERGs back then, but we wasn't calling a lot of that D&I. You know what I'm saying? It was just like support groups. So the language has evolved, but the concept has been around for a really long time.
So when we talk about, I think about reasons why DEI has trouble. And
yeah, I got my whoop.
I know. But I think the one thing is that, we'll talk about transgender, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So it blows me away that women do not have an issue voting for someone that is Woman of the Year and they're transgender.
Yeah. And I that let's talk about that. This is a super controversial thing, and I've been talking to my LGBTQ DEI subject matter experts because I'm a generalist. Let's be clear. I look at all spectrums of DEI. I run numbers and data, but there are some people that are particular subject matter experts on different things. I'm probably a subject matter expert on macro and micro racial discrimination, bias, and oppression. Is probably my area of expertise if I had to call it anything. But that system and that voting system, I don't know if that was completely ran by women. I also don't, let's talk about the fact of how you can buy your way into a position. But like the transgender argument has been such a broad area of discussion for us. And I'm not trans, I'm also not LGBTQ, so I'm speaking from the place of allyship, accompliceness, and not as a subject matter expert. I'm giving that disclaimer. Because I know y'all will come for me, and don't trust me. I don't mind sticking up for myself, but let me minimize how y'all come for me. Because
Cheryl, no matter what the fuck you say, they're gonna come for you.
right, so someone's gonna come for me, but someone's gonna come for me.
But just bring it.
Yeah.
You know your truth, Cheryl. You know your truth, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And there's extremists in every identity that we have. And so, like, for example, I've struggled with the fact that I'm an advocate for trans women. I've hired and not just trans women, trans people in general. I've hired trans people. I've seen how they've been treated in companies, even as consultants and subject matter experts, and it's shitty, to say the least. And I have a blog about that. I even talk about that in my book, especially my neurodivergent trans, Black, and Indigenous people of color. Been treated very terribly in companies in a way that I've never been treated, which shows me the kind of privilege I have based on my gender.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question.
Yeah.
What percentage of the population is neurodivergent, trans, African American? The
U.S. population or world?
U.S. population.
The U.S. population, I believe, trans is 4%, 5%.
But what about that list? You said neurodivergent. You get
neurodivergent actually diagnosed, because also let's talk about healthcare for trans people, and having to go in and get that diagnosis is not always as readily available as we like to think. But I believe it's about 3%, 3 to 4%, still very small. But in that 3 to 4%, I would say 95 to, if not 99% of them face extreme areas of discrimination when they have all of those identities. So even in the minority, there's a majority. That's the specificity of data. Right? But and it's like often we want to ignore discrimination if the numbers are minority, or we ignore oppression if the numbers are minority, Gershon. Like, I've gone into companies, I've ran, after this year, because I just finished my last one, 138 DEI assessments across the world. Mostly 95% in the US, but I've also done it in South Africa, in India, in Tokyo. I've been around the world doing DEI assessments, the UK, you name it. And when I look at the data, for example, I went into a company once. The company was only 5% Black. But out of the 5% that were Black, the 12 Black people, 9 of them faced discrimination. If that shows up in majority data, that's what? If there's 1,000 people in a company and 9 of them, for example, face discrimination, but of that 9%, of the 10, that's 90% of that 10 identity. But people don't always run data like that. They say, oh, less than 5% experience racial discrimination.
9 out of 1,000.
9 out of 1,000. I'm like, now tell me which group, right? And they're like, well, do we need to really have solutions? Yes, you do, for that group. Because clearly there are some trends showing that they face discrimination as opposed to other groups. So when we talk about groups like trans identity or transgender, even though if they are 4% of the population, within that 4%, there's a vast majority of them that will still face discriminations oppressions even, that we will ignore because of how small that number is. And that's where equity kicks in. I pause there.
You pause there. Because, I got a question for you, because when I first met you, you were telling me you were going to have a hard time probably getting this doctorate. And I asked you why.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you said, because most of these researchers are all fucking white men.
That's right. Very European.
So that being said, when it comes to DEI, who's doing the research?
Yeah.
White men again? White
No.
women? Where's this research coming from now? So you can get rid of that bias.
Yeah. I think when you think about DEI research, it often comes from marginalized people. Women, Black and Indigenous people of color, marginalized religious identities are doing DEI work. Marginalized genders, sexual orientations, those populations are really doing DEI research. The challenge, and it's even one of the challenges you and I have talked about, and I've said pretty honestly in class, is that even when they do that research, it's not accepted in the Journal of Academy Management, for example.
Academy of Management, yeah.
There's not too many articles about transgenders in there. They may submit, but that doesn't mean they're going to get accepted, right? I mean, a lot of white scholars don't get accepted who submit, but their percentage is much higher than a marginalized identity. Because I know someone will say that, well, I submitted, I'm white. Okay, we get it. But your acceptance rate is higher. Disrespectfully, shut the fuck up. Everybody always looking for the loophole. But
now you see why I love Cheryl so much.
Right. I'm like, let's get specific, sis. Shut up. Sit down, please. But yeah. But you was asking me some questions. I want to make sure I answer them. You was on the topic of transgender. What were you? Yeah.
No, I mean, the thing is, like, I'm with you. I'm very socially liberal, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't believe that I know what's the best decision for another person. I don't believe the government should make decisions because they know what's best for us, right? The joke is always like, you get the knock on the door and it's like, hey, hi, we're the government. We're here to help you.
Right.
I really think people can make their own decisions and do what they want to do, but I don't believe I should pay for it.
Mm.
I don't feel it has any effect on me as a person, because I had 2 African American men here yesterday, and I looked them in the face. I go, I don't hate someone because of their race, their color, their religion, their sex. I hate them because they're an asshole.
Yeah, I hear that. And some of those identities translate into the entitlement to be an asshole, right? Because and trust me, I've met assholes of every gender, of every identity, of every race. I've dealt with them all, y'all. I'm dealing with them all. But I do think that there are, like I said, the extremists, the assholes who believe it's our way or no way. I don't always mind the government making decisions. What I hate is how they make decisions and how often misinformed those decisions are, based on people's bias and lack of ability to do research, or even behavioral psychology, for example, or even in the way that that's done. It's like when we talk about who's submitting the kind of research people pay attention to, it's not always the populations that people that need the support. Like you and I talked once in class about the notion of help. Notion of help is riddled in bias. It's like, oh, let us help you. You need these things. And I believe that communities should have more power to be allowed to govern how they exist. I do believe that. But I also think that I worry because when I've seen even those kind of structures happen, they turn into a lion's den of self-interest. And so now I'm sitting in this clusterfuck of people who all want to be treated well, but then there's still challenges within those structures, especially if they're being built by very angry and uninformed people, but want to see the right thing and are tired of struggling. That's where the challenge is. But everybody thinks they're a goddamn genius, G-O-T, a genius in those circles. And you know what I really fucking hate, Gershon? I hate that people associate truth with loudness and passion. Just because someone is loud and passionate doesn't mean that they're telling you the fucking truth. They could be screaming lies at you. And we see that in DEI.
Well, isn't that every politician you basically know?
That's right. And our fucking economy is really, really struggling. And every politician who comes says they're going to fix it. And somehow when they leave office, 9 times out of 10, it seems more damaged.
Okay, let me ask you. Why is the economy struggling? How do you see the economy is struggling? What barometers are you looking at?
Yeah, so I look at a few indicators: the level of poverty, in particular for certain identities, or for all identities, who's getting richer, who's getting poorer, and is the wealth gap increasing, which it has been over time, especially post-pandemic. I'm looking at the level of unemployment in different communities, the level of crime in different communities. I'm looking at the level of houselessness or the unhoused. Like, there's so many factors that go into what I think economic disparities are. And often I'm looking at those because I'm running data on economic disparities and how that might impact one of my companies and their community partnerships, right? And so all of these factors are increasing. Except crime. There's a misconception even in some spaces, in some states, that crime is increasing. It's not. like even in California. But the way that we report it is increasing. More channels are showing you criminal activity. We have Ring cameras now, and everybody's posting that shit. But I was looking at data the other day, even in the city of LA, and crime went from like 11% to 8% where it currently is. So small decreases.
Whoa, 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 whoa,
Right.
whoa, whoa.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about it, because when you're talking about crime in LA, of course crime's going to go down when no one's getting arrested for anything.
I hear that. But also, what kind of crimes? Like, let's talk about that, because that's the detail. That's the devil in the details.
Let's keep it simple.
Okay.
If you go into 7-Eleven and you steal a candy bar, is that a crime?
If you're stealing is a crime, yes.
Okay. So in the state of California, right? Anything under $1,000 is not a crime.
That's right. You don't. That shit trips me the fuck out. I almost called you California, Gershon. like I was seeing people report it. This lady in our neighborhood reported her bike got stolen. Her bike is worth $200, for example. And they like, what do you want us to do about it? Like, go buy another bike. She got the person on camera stealing her bike. She got this person's identity. She's showing it to them, and they didn't do nothing. I'm like this. So the kind of crimes that we report and that are accepted make a huge fucking difference.
Oh, exactly. I mean, when they came, someone stole my pickup truck. And they're like, if we find the truck and we catch the person, do you want to, pursue this? Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It's a crime. Last time I checked, that's what crime was. You do something that breaks the law.
I got assaulted in a park by an unhoused person last November, and he was on drugs, and he assaulted me, had his pants down, grabbed me by the hoodie. I turned around defending myself, had my dog with me, 90-pound pit bull. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking. I was walking with 90-pound pit bull, but clearly out of his mind. They charged him with indecent exposure. They let him out of jail. In February, maybe March, it might have been February, the same man tried to rape another young Asian girl by the pier in Santa Monica. Another unhoused woman jumped in to save her. He tried to drown this white woman. They charged him with assault and attempted murder. Y'all let him out when he assaulted me. Now y'all arrest him and put him in jail.
The good news is that bastard up in L.A. who was in charge of all that shit, he's out.
Yeah.
Because, I think Gavin Newsom was surprised that the people of California, thank gosh, voted we should be stricter on crime.
Yeah.
In this last week in the election.
Yeah.
He was like, oh, wow, they really, wow, I guess we got to take this serious.
I mean, shit, you come to Santa Monica and it feels unsafe. and I'm from the hood. Let's be clear. But it's like, it's a different kind of unsafety now because of the way our laws are set up, because of the lack of policing. But y'all will go to South Central and have cops driving all through poor areas. But you come to Santa Monica, it's hard to find y'all. And there's shit happening there. But y'all over police one area and disregard another.
And it's not saying that we're none of us here hate the police.
Right.
Right? We're just saying it's a mismanagement of resources.
Right. And people not applying for those jobs, under-resourced. Also, as far as person power.
Right.
Right. So
but honestly, would you want to be a police officer right now?
Hell no. You didn't even have to finish that sentence. No. It's wild. But that's what happens when the economy struggles. Right. Crime goes up. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so you do, like, when I say, like, I'm looking and they have statistics that crime is going down, it's not that it's a significant drop in crime, but also the way that we report it has changed. The way they document it has changed. So there's always specificity in the details. That's why I always look for the details.
Exactly. So if we want to talk about details, what are some of the most significant misconceptions you've heard about DEI?
That it's going to take jobs away from white people is the biggest misconception. And one of my theoretical frameworks is psychological reactance theory. The word diversity triggers people the most out of that entire acronym. So you even seen companies and organizations like SHRM starting to get rid of the D so that they can even have conversations about it. But the biggest misconception, and the reason I point out the D, is because that stands for diversity, which is people. It's representation. And people think if they do diversity initiatives that white people are going to lose jobs, white men are going to lose jobs, or they're either going to get fired or not hired, and that's a misconception.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I'm also looking at leaders of organizations, and it's like, if you only have one population working for you, maybe that's the market you're trying to hit. But usually, to be successful, organizations need to hit all markets.
That's correct.
Don't you think it would make more sense to have a representation from all markets?
Yeah. And you know what's sad, and even with marketing research, a lot of the data that's being used, especially specifically for DEI initiatives and programs, and let me be clear, I say this in my book, DEI is not a separate initiative or program. It should be integrated into the DNA of your company. It is part of your brand. You need to find a way to integrate it. As opposed to making it a separate thing. That's a problem, because when you create separate programs, you create separation. And that's another issue with DEI, is that people are like, well, we're just going to do this little initiative. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean?
Well, it's the same thing as all these companies that said they're going green.
Yeah. Like, really, sign the pledge, right?
Yeah, we're going green. Okay, what'd you do? Oh, well, we put LED light bulbs in.
Right. It's like the same thing that's like we're putting the pink ribbon up for breast cancer awareness. How about you just take the carcinogens out of your fucking products? But no, you're like, we're going to donate. Right? That's what goes back to even what we was talking about earlier. As long as people are sick,
there's going to be money.
There's going to be money. There's going to be profitability.
Right. There's
it's sick.
And it's very sad to say. And don't get me wrong. I think cancer research has come a long way.
Yes, it has. I agree.
But I think it would be a lot further.
Yeah.
A lot further if some certain people, certain organizations wouldn't be profiting as much as they have off of human illness.
Yeah. I mean, to keep you sick is a market. It's like if you take I had thought about taking a weight loss, not the shot, but phentermine. And I was like, I just need something to help me kickstart so I can lose weight. Because I go to the gym pretty regularly. I'm pretty fucking active. And I used to weigh 415 pounds. So some of y'all might look at this and be like, she's active? Yes, the fuck I am. Watch your mouth. But I used to weigh 415 pounds, and so slowly but surely have been dropping weight on and off and trying to keep it off. And I was like, I'm ready for my next big jump in body mass decretion, right? And so I took they gave me phentermine because I was like, I don't really want a shot. I like to do it natural, just maybe appetite, suppressing, whatever. Do you know the kind of nightmares I had? I was like, am I a serial killer? and I mean that because I'm having these horrible nightmares. So it's like, now may have to go to therapy. I took it for a month and stopped. I was like, no way.
Yeah, you need to go on the South Beach diet of the 80s, which was cocaine.
No, thank you.
But
then I got to pay for rehab.
But from the medical standpoint, these new injections are they're amazing. They're amazing what they're doing for diabetics. It's amazing what it's doing for diabetics with kidney disease.
Yeah.
And for the weight loss, I mean, I've been on Ozempic now for 18 months. I've lost 47 pounds.
Congrats.
I sleep great. I feel great. I'm going to have Dr. Satara on here. Actually, we're going to be talking about Ozempic and hormone replacement therapy, both which are huge just to get yourself back to normal.
Yeah.
So that's another story. But, don't ever be afraid of trying that medication right now because the positives are through the roof. Now,
yeah, it's going great.
Yeah.
But there's some of those side effects.
Oh, those
are atrocious.
The side effects put me in the hospital twice.
Yeah. I had a friend, she's on Wegovy. She's been in the hospital.
Semaglutide.
Yeah.
Woo! That's what Ozempic is, semaglutide. And it's bad. So I'm on tirzepatide.
Okay.
And the side effects are minimal.
Good for you.
Minimal. And I feel great. I really do. I feel awesome. You hit your 50s. I know you're not there yet.
No.
Once you're not even in your 40s.
God willing.
You got to get to your 40s.
I'm in my 40s.
Oh, bullshit. You lie.
I'm 43,
anyway.
y'all.
But the thing is, like, when you get in your 50s, the fun game you play every morning you wake up is what the fuck's hurting today.
I feel like that now sometimes.
Yeah. So anyway, I think, I think the one thing that when we're talking about the government and people making money off of people being sick, yeah, why don't we have programs for healthy eating.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
Look what they've done, unfortunately, to the underprivileged communities.
Yeah.
I mean, you can find a lot of fast food there.
Yeah, every corner. But you go into a really rich neighborhood, you're not going to find a McDonald's on every corner. You're not going to find a liquor store on every corner, right? And some places are food deserts. Even so, there's no farmers markets. Like, and then the cost of buying that shit. People are like, it doesn't cost as much you think to eat healthy. Yes, it does when you have a family. Yes, it does. I'm like, you go look for the price of a tomato versus an organic tomato. It's different. And so, like, or if you got to go get food from a pantry, those pantries aren't always giving you fresh fruit and produce. That you know what I'm saying? It's like there's a difference. And so when people talk about, oh, it's just about budgeting and financial literacy, that's some of it. I'm not completely discounting that. But don't overlook the other benefits because you think one solution is going to fix it all. That's another thing I fucking hate about DEI experts even, is when they think that if you just do this one thing and they go in there with that approach and they try to do this one thing and it doesn't fucking work. And now people think DEI doesn't work. I'm like, I need you really loud consultants to sometimes have several seats if you are doing this one size fits all solution. That shit does not work.
So do you think it's DEI people giving up on it, or do you think it's fatigue?
Both. So I've been doing DEI for 20 plus years, and I've reached the point where I don't even say burnout so much, because I have felt what I thought was burnout, but I've gotten to this place now and this level of consciousness where if I feel my light dimming, I will sit back until it resets. Right? Like, I take December of every year off. Like, I'm out the whole year. Don't bother me. And my clients know that. Don't call me unless the roof's on fire. Call the fire station first. Call 911 first. But I think people get really tired. And when they get really tired, they still don't stop, because I also see a lot of DEI experts are so rooted in passion.
Correct.
That they just want to help, and you want to help. And we are often taught the narrative of taking care of others before ourselves, but that has since changed in this last decade, more so of self-care. We see a lot of people talking about therapy openly now, meditating, taking care of yourself, eating healthy. And people have always talked about that. I'm not saying that, but in more massive numbers and in more outlets now, as social media has done for many of us, or media itself in general. But DEI experts you see them get so tired and so even burnt out, because that fight in you, that warrior in you, that doesn't want people to experience what you have, for example. So you willing to give it your all until you are done. And I've seen a lot of people even leave this industry now, especially when Trump first came in office, because of how burnt out they were. I mean, hate crimes raised 200%. Right? For certain populations. I mean, people were going into companies and getting their ass kicked. And a lot of DEI, and it's one of the reasons I put in this book, a lot of DEI experts were getting their ass kicked because we love to go sell the sob story. People don't give a fuck about that anymore. Right? Or not as much of a fuck about that as we like to think. Great if you raise money in nonprofit and you make a commercial to feed someone or have a campaign. Not so well in DEI. That is not what sustainability is. It's like if you go in with that narrative and you say, you sell this sob story and you donate to this charity. Like, say, for example, you're a donor. You donate to a charity because they sell you a sob story. You hear that same story over and over again. You get to a point at some point where you stop donating. DEI metaphorically is like that sometimes when we try to sell it to executives. We say people are being harmed. This is hurting this. This is hurting this. And most executives that I coach and people that I've dealt with, and I've dealt with quite a few, say, show me the numbers. But when we think about DEI measurement systems and we look at the numbers, those don't always exist in the way that we think they do, or in a way where people want to hear them. Right? I made that mistake with one of my companies when I was trying to sell a technology. I said, on average, our data shows that we save you $40,000 per turnover rate in employee. People don't understand what the fuck that shit meant, but I did.
Well, they would if they looked at their checkbook at the end of the year.
Right. And but when I go in and sell that, give me your profit and loss statement, and I'll show you how much money I can save you. right? And that was always a good selling point is, let me see your balance sheet. Let me see your profit and loss statement. Let me see where you have the biggest hits. And then show me your employee engagement survey and let me see if there are any trends that can explain why that happens. Data matters, and not just numerical, not just quantitative data. Qualitative matters too, but we love to lead with that and sit in that in DEI, and that shit just not going to work for us. Besides the bias that you need to navigate, I'm not saying that that's the only way to fix it. Please hear me, but it's a big problem.
So what essential skills do you believe are important for anyone who wants to be involved in DEI?
I think there are quite a few. Let me see if I can list as many of them as possible very succinctly. The first one is you got to be thick-skinned to do DEI work, because you're going to meet the best of the best and you're going to meet the worst of the worst doing this work. And somewhere you often exist in the in-between as a DEI consultant and finding that middle ground. In my book, I talk about the 10 types of DEI personalities. And one of the commonalities in all of those is there has to be a bit of resiliency and perseverance, but also balance with work-life integration. Because I don't know if I always believe in work-life balance, because sometimes my job gets 70% of me, sometimes it get 30% of me. Just depends on how the fuck I'm feeling. It's not always 50-50 based on that average, but I also think DEI experts need to understand how to collect and read and analyze data without bias, or minimizing bias in the most objective way possible, right? And I think that that's super beneficial. I also think that you need to have the skills to be able to it is truly a skill to change people, to provide the tools that people need to be able to change their minds. Because I think some of us believe if I can just change him. It's like, girl, when you get in a relationship with that hard-headed man and you think he a good man, you see the potential. You like, if I could just change him. And then you can't, because he got to make the decision to change. That's how DEI is often when you go into a company, you know?
I don't think we change. I think we're trained. We're always going to be the same, but I think we get trained.
Yeah.
Like I've been with my wife almost 30 years. I'm trained to her ways, but I'm still the same guy.
Yeah.
So I don't know about that.
I think there's an evolution, but I think if a person wants to change, my point is they have to be willing to do that. You need to have some sort of barometer as a DEI expert that understands a person's willingness to want to change. Because people love change, especially if it benefits them. What people hate is that they have to change in order to make that happen, right? Or they have to evolve or shift even to a certain extent. And it's like the story I told y'all earlier about me walking into that man's office as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, deer in the headlights kind of DEI person. My first year, I probably would have took him as a client, because I would have said, oh, there's some potential here because he called me. But now in my experience and older age, I'm like, oh no, this is a red flag for me. This is one of the red flags where I know this is not it. Right? And I think you have to have that level of consciousness, and you have to know how to meet people where they are and when to leave them there. We got to know when to stop trying to push our agenda if it's not working in the way that we push it. Because the world will always need DEI experts. The evolution of what that need will be determined by the way our society moves. And then there will be things that will always be stagnant, like racism. But the focus on race and really pushing that home has harmed DEI. It really has. And not because it's not relevant. And I don't know if there's ever a way to message it to oppressors correctly. And our systems are not in a place to really nurture that. Yeah.
You never. Once they're ignorant, for oppressors are ignorant. And
yeah.
Don't waste your
and
breath
willfully
and time.
most times.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the problem is they're ignorant. Why are they ignorant? Because they believe they're right and they won't listen to anyone else.
Yeah.
They think their way is the only way. And, to each their own. I mean, you just don't waste your time, breath, or life on that stuff.
Yeah.
So, I mean, know what I love the most, Cheryl, is I love your passion that DEI just is not a checkbox exercise for these organizations.
Yeah.
It's actually something that will benefit organizations. It will be something that could help bring better products to organizations. And most importantly, it'll bring profitability to organizations.
Correct.
But again, the problem is it's been so politicized, and I don't want to, lack of better words, shoved down our throat.
Yeah.
That a lot of people are just sick of it.
Yeah.
So God bless you for what you're doing.
Yeah, for real.
As if you're not busy, you need to read this next DEI. Write this book, Dying.
It was in 2022 when my businesses started failing. I'm very transparent about that, and I'm not often. And part of the reason was, one, trying to undo the legislation that Trump created to overturn DEI. We got our asses kicked. We lost a lot of government contracts who received funding because of that. And watching my consultants go into companies and really struggle because of executives, and mostly white male executives, but also white women, let me be clear, and even other races, but those are the majority where I seen DEI failing, Gershon. That's what it was. I was like, this shit is not working. And I've been doing it for a long time, and I started to feel myself even become more and more disheartened by what I'm seeing at the rate that I'm seeing it. And so I'm a solutionist, y'all. I've said this before. I'm a fixer. I said, what can I create to contribute to an industry of people who really want to do this work and teach them how to, one, maintain their own sustainability, but create DEI companies based on the failures that I'm seeing in my own company and not being able to raise money to keep our company sustainable, because I had a tech company and I was raising from investors at a time when they really weren't writing checks. I mean, that our investors already really don't write checks to people like me, let's be clear. But it got even harder in 2022, from 2022 to 2024.
Well, so, cash isn't cheap.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
The dollar was not cheap anymore.
Yep. And we've seen VCs overall writing less checks. And when that happens, the marginalized tend to suffer more because people want the quick money then, right? They're like, how am I going to get 200, 300 times my profit with your product? DEI doesn't always work like that because it takes a really long time. That's another misconception, is people think that if you just give me this one solution to check the box, it's going to fix everything. And that's another reason I came back to school. Is I said, I've gotten all this longitudinal data in these companies that show what they're investing in and how they implement DEI really works. How do I build a measurement system and a solutions-based system that shows that to the rest of the world? I put it in words in this book, and now I'm working to digitize it in a way that creates a measurement system through my dissertation that hopefully we can create some tech and license it for people to understand how to authentically do DEI, but build a tool that also helps DEI experts who are in the industry do it more efficiently and keep their jobs.
So what impact do you hope this book has on the future for DEI for generations to come?
You know, I hope that this book will always be a guide for DEI experts in this industry, or not even experts, people who just want to do really great equitable work in companies for different populations and everyone, right? Because DEI is truly for everyone. I mean, we all have our intersections and our different dimensions. It's just that the word itself causes us to ignore those because of the way it's been framed politically often. But I want this book to be sort of like your go-to when you need DEI support and you're trying to figure out how to navigate it, how to define it, and how to design it and measure it. I want this book to be the thing that helps populations do that.
Last question. Is there an uncomfortable truth that you think needs to be talked about DEI and brought to the forefront and have an open discussion about?
Yeah, there really is. And gosh, it makes me a little, I won't say uncomfortable to say it, but a bit of hesitation in the fact that and it's because it's not just white people, but a majority of y'all, when I come up against DEI issues in companies, y'all are the catalyst behind it. And so I'm saying this to every heteronormative identity or normative and majoritarian identity that I can think of that has power, is we really need to dismantle the systems that y'all have built and rebuild and build new systems to really make DEI more sustainable and to see the world change, because the systems y'all have built, while some of them are great and they work great for some people, they shitting on the rest of us. And it's like, and it's not that we don't want to build systems to help y'all. We just need to build systems that work for everybody, and yours fucking don't. That's the uncomfortable truth.
I really have nothing to say after that comment. Because if anything, well, I mean, this is a perfect example, right? Here's an African-American woman, a white Jewish man, and we're able to sit here and have this discussion.
Yeah.
And when we leave here, we'll still go, even if we can agree to disagree on stuff, we still will go and break bread together.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how this country was built, and that's what everything in this is all about. So it's available where?
It's available on Amazon. It's available in Barnes and Nobles. And an Audible book is coming in 2025. I will be doing an audiobook.
Who's going to be? Is it going to be Snoop Dogg doing the Audible?
No, it's going to be me.
You're reading it to people?
I'm reading it to people because I really want to drive home those points. If I could get Uncle Snoop to do the foreword or something, no, Uncle Snoop, come holla at your girl. I don't have a budget for you, I'm sure, but I truly, I want to make it accessible. Go to Barnes and Nobles and be looking for the Audible book. Hopefully by spring of 2025, we'll have that out there.
And if anyone wants to contact you right now, what's the best way they can get a hold of you?
You can email me every time I give my email, I get hate mail every time, but I don't give a shit. I'm used to it. I know how to block y'all now. It's Cheryl, Cheryl, at Inclusology. It's like the study of inclusion.com. Cheryl at inclusology.com. Or if you look for me on social media, I'm flawless_402.
Yeah, I think it's just very important that everyone listening just sits down and just truly just thinks about DEI, not from a political standpoint, but just from treating everyone the same, giving everyone the same opportunities.
Equitable, Gershon. Treat people equitably so you can get the sameness.
Oh, geez, you always correct me on all my bullshit. So with that, I just want to say thank you, Dr. Cheryl. Thank you for being here. I'm really blessed that I've truly gotten to get to know you. I love our deep conversations, and we'll talk to you all next time. Yeah.
Thank y'all. Thank you for having me, Gershon. It's been a great experience. We always have real-ass conversations. I appreciate them.
You got it. We'll talk to you soon.
For sure.
That was fun. Yeah.
Thanks for buying. I got to sign your book.
Yeah, you signed my book. Damn it.
Did you read it? It's still...
Dude, I don't.
It's
Oh,
just
look,
an
it's all
easy read. So,